Good morning. Sunday, August 9th, 2020. Another video on baseball. I've done 23 videos on baseball. This will be my 24th. Incredible game. I've been analyzing it. I've been looking at players, baseball records, baseball accomplishments. I list my top 50 offensive players, my top 50 pitchers. Then I get into the metrics. I get into the skill, the talent of ball players. I have a lot of top 50 list. Check out my other videos. This one, there's something I haven't done with baseball. This video will focus on the World Series and which players have the most World Series rings. You should know the answer to that one. I want to analyze it a little bit more through the 150 years of baseball. World Series started at the beginning of the 20th century, around 1903, I believe, was the first World Series, until now, 2020. Do you know that the Yankees have been in 40 World Series in 120 years? 40 of them. That's a record. And they've won 27 of them. The New York Yankees. 27 out of 40. That's a very good winning percentage. When they're in the World Series, more than half the time they win it. The next team, the St. Louis Cardinals. They have 11 titles out of 19 appearances. Then the Philadelphia Athletics, and then now they're the Oakland Athletics. They've won 9 times out of 14 appearances. The Red Sox, beginning of the century, won a lot of titles, and then they've won 3 in the last, 15 years? They have 9 titles out of 13 appearances. Then the Giants, New York Giants, not the San Francisco Giants, but the New York Giants have 8 titles out of 20 appearances. Then the Dodgers, 6 titles out of 20 appearances. Ooh, they've lost a lot of time. 14 losses in the World Series. Then you have the Cincinnati Reds, 6 times titles out of 9 appearances. Very good percentage. The Pirates, 5 titles out of 7 appearances. The Tigers, Detroit Tigers. Pittsburgh Pirates, 5 out of 7. And then the Detroit Tigers, 4 titles out of 11 appearances. Then you have the Chicago Cubs, 3 titles out of 11 appearances. They went a long stretch. They went over 100 years in between titles. Too long, 100 years. But they won it recently. Milwaukee Braves and the Atlanta Braves, 3 titles out of 9 appearances. The Orioles, 3 titles out of 7 appearances. Minnesota Twins. Baltimore Orioles, 3 out of 7. Minnesota Twins, 3 titles out of 6 appearances. The White Sox, Chicago White Sox, 3 titles out of 5 appearances. The Phillies, Philadelphia Phillies, 2 titles out of 7 appearances. Cleveland Indians, 2 titles out of 6 appearances. New York Mets, Miracle Mets, remember? 1969 it was. 2 titles out of 5 appearances. Kansas City Royals, 2 titles out of 4 appearances. Miami Marlins, they were the Florida Marlins, and they changed to the Miami Marlins. 2 for 2. 2 titles out of 2 appearances. How about that? The Blue Jays, Toronto Blue Jays, Canadian team. 2 titles out of 2 appearances. The Astros, used to be the Houston Colts or whatever it was. But the Astros, they won once out of 3 times appearance. The Washington Senators won a title with Walter Johnson way back 1924, 1 out of 1 appearance. And then the Washington Nationals, last year's World Series champion, 1 for 1. Anaheim Angels, they appeared once and they won the title. And the Arizona Diamondbacks won 1 out of 1 appearance. They beat the Yankees that 1 year. You know who's never won a title in baseball? San Diego Padres. But they have 2 appearances, 0 for 2. Milwaukee Brewers, they appeared once, they lost. Tampa Bay Rays, they appeared once and lost. The Rockies, Colorado Rockies, they appeared once and lost. And the Seattle Mariners have never been in the World Series. How about that? So those are just some of the teams that have won World Series titles. Why are the New York Yankees 27 out of 40? Because they had the most money back in the day? You would think the Philadelphia A's and the New York Giants, even the Brooklyn Dodgers, St. Louis Cardinals, you think they would have money too? And they would compose teams. Why are the Yankees the number 1 team in baseball? Probably because of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford and Yogi Berra. Maybe that has something to do with it. But these other teams had great players. Cardinals had Hornsby. Detroit Tigers had Ty Cobb. And let's see. You had Nap Lajoie and some of these Hall of Famers, Cap Anson. Some of these teams had great ball players. Walter Johnson was on the Washington Senators, but they were a last place team for some reason. Cy Young, Christy Mathewson. I'll get into the players who have the most World Series rings, and those players never got a chance. All right. And then I'll, at the end of this video, I'll mention some fun facts of World Series, fun facts. All right, but for now, do you know how many players? I'm going to focus on baseball players who have won a World Series ring and are in the Hall of Fame. It'd be way too many players to list who have won World Series rings. So I'll focus on the ones who are in the Hall of Fame. How about those players? How many rings do they have and who has the most? Okay. Do you know, according to my list, let's see if I've got it. Yeah. 142 baseball players who are in the Hall of Fame have a World Series ring. And some players have multiple rings, and there's one player who's just absolutely ridiculous as far as how many rings he has. You should know. I'll do my countdown. I'll count down from number 142 to number 1 and tell you who has the most rings. And if you don't know, then you need to freshen up your baseball knowledge, okay? And here's the other fact. Did you know that there are 72 players that are quality players who are in the Hall of Fame who do not have a ring, a World Series ring? 72. So 142 Hall of Famers have a ring. Some have multiple. But there are 72 players in the Hall of Fame who do not have a ring. How about that? You want me to tell you those players first? I'll mention those players first. Here we go. Players in the Hall of Fame who do not have a World Series ring. I feel sorry for them. Man. Trevor Hoffman, Don Sutton, Ralph Kiner, Rod Carew, Tony Gwynn. He went to the World Series twice, but lost twice. At least he got there. Ted Williams went to the World Series once and lost. Craig Biggio, Hack Wilson, Gaylord Perry, Ferguson Jenkins. He was on the Cubs. Remember I told you they went 100 years in between World Series. Jeff Bagwell, Ron Santo, Chicago Cubs, Carlton Fisk, Andre Dawson, Ryan Sandberg, Chicago Cubs, Billy Williams, Chicago Cubs. It's too bad they were on those teams. Mike Piazza, Jim Bunning pitched a perfect game. Juan Marichal, Robin Roberts, Robin Yount, George Sisler. Harmon Killebrew, he made the World Series, but had to face Sandy Koufax. Willie McCovey came within 1 out of winning a World Series, and he hit a line drive to second base with men on base. Got caught, and that was the final out, and the Yankees won that World Series. Carl Yastrzemski, he was on the Boston Red Sox, and they went a long stretch, 80 years without a title. Him and Ted Williams. Early win, Ken Griffey Jr. Nap Lajoie. Ernie Banks never played in the World Series. In fact, one of the fun facts on him is, I'm sorry to say it, Ernie, he went the most games, played the most games in Major League history without playing one game in the World Series. Ernie likes to play two, but you know what? I like Ernie because he kept a positive attitude, and he's still smiling. Ernie Banks. Even though he never got to play in the World Series, he was part of the Chicago Cubs that went 100 years without a World Series appearance. Or actually, I should say, without a World Series title. I think they appeared, but they, as far as winning the World Series, 100 years. And Ernie Banks played 2,528 games and never made the World Series. Oh, I feel sorry for Ernie. And another player went to the World Series 14 times. I'll tell you who it is. But you know what? Ernie Banks still is smiling because he wants to play too. All right, these are players that haven't won the World Series. They've appeared in the series, some of these players. But I just stressed Ernie Banks not making it to the World Series. Here's a surprise. Ty Cobb never won the World Series. I think he appeared twice, played Honus Wagner in the Pirates, and Wagner got the upper hand. Luke Applin, Richie Asburn, Earl Averill, Jack Beckley, Jack Chesborough, John Clarkson, he's a guy who won over 300 games pitching. Sam Crawford, Joe Cronin, Bobby Doerr, Hugh Duffy, batted .440 one season with over 500 at-bats. Rick Farrell, Elmer Flick, Nellie Fox, these are guys in the Hall of Fame. Pud Galvin went over 300 games. Billy Hamilton, Gabby Hartett, Harry Heilman, Billy Herman, Monty Irvin, Huey Jennings, Addie Joss, these are old school guys. Tim Keefe, over 300 games. Willie Keeler, 44-game hitting streak. George Kell, Joe Kelly, Mike Kelly, Chuck Klein, Fred Lindstrom, Ted Lyons, Heine Manush, Rube Margard, Kid Nichols won over 300 games, Jim Rice, Boston Red Sox, Epi Rixey, Archie Vaughn, Rube Waddell, Bobby Wallace, Lloyd Wainer, Paul Wainer, 3,000 hits, Willie Wells, and Zach Wheat. 72 players never won the World Series, yet they're in the Hall of Fame. I feel sorry for all these guys. I feel sorry for Gwynn, Ted Williams, Ty Cobb, because they had extraordinary careers, not just an average career. But all these guys had Hall of Fame careers, but some of these guys had outstanding career stats. I feel sorry for him. Gaylord Perry won over 300 games. Ferguson Jenkins, 20-game winner, 8 years in a row. Harmon Killebrew, 573 home runs. William McCovey, 521 home runs. Carl Yastrzemski, 3,400 hits. Ken Griffey, 630 homers. Nap Lajoie, over 3,000 hits. But they did not win the World Series. Carlton Fisk went to Game 7 against the Reds. Just missed out. George Sisler, 335 lifetime batting average. Hack Wilson had 191 RBIs in one season and hit 56 home runs. Ernie Banks, over 500 home runs. Trevor Hoffman, 600 saves. Don Sutton, over 300 wins. Man, I feel sorry for these guys that did not win the World Series. Rod Carew, 7 batting titles. Juan Marshall. Paul Wainer, 3,000 hits. Oh boy. Robin Yount, 3,000 hits. Ty Cobb, 12 batting titles, 4,189 hits. Did not win the World Series. Hugh Duffy. Oh man. Ralph Kiner, home run slugger. Craig Biggio, 3,000 hits. Ryan Sandberg, Mike Piazza, Jim Bunning pitched a perfect game. Robin Roberts, a lot of wins. So those are the list, 72 players who have not won a World Series. You know Pete Rose, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he has 2 World Series rings. Or does he have 3? He has 3 of them. 2 with the Reds and 1 with the Phillies. How about that? And then I'm not going to include players who are playing right now as far as my list who have won World Series title. These are players, the baseball players that I'm talking about are ones whose career is over. Also, I'm not going to include players who took performance-enhancing drugs on my list of players who have won World Series titles. You know who those are. McGwire, Alex Rodriguez. Their stats are in question. Is it fair to leave them off? It's just that they're not in the Hall of Fame. So the players that I'm listing who have won titles are in the Hall of Fame. Okay? So Pete Rose won't be on the list, even though he has 3 titles. McGwire believes he has a couple titles. Rodriguez got a title. Okay. So like I told you, 142 players in the Hall of Fame who have a World Series ring. And I'm going to count down, starting with players who have won, from 142 all the way to number 1. And see who has the most. You should know. All right, 142. Cy Young has a title. 141. Dave Winfield. 140, Vic Willis, played for the Pirates. I'll try to list the teams they played for, okay? Cy Young was with the Red Sox. Winfield won a title with I believe the Yankees, yeah. Hoyt Wilhelm. These are all the players that have one title. And when I get to two, I'll specify two, and then the players with three, the players with four, players with 5, 6, 7, 9, and one player has 10. Okay. Counting down. I'll do it again. Cy Young, 142. Red Sox. Dave Winfield, 1. Yankees. Vic Willis, 1. Pirates. I'll just say that all these players that I'm going to list have one, okay? And when I get to 2, I'll tell you. 139, Hoyt Wilhelm, Giants, played in the 50s. 138, Ed Walsh, with the White Sox, 1 title. Played 1904. Honus Wagner won a title with the Pirates. 137 on the countdown. Counting down, 136. Dazzy Vance with the Reds. 135. Pie Traynor. These are all Hall of Famers. With the Pirates, played in the 20s. Alan Trammell, 134 on the list. With the Tigers, played in the 90s. 133 on the list. Frank Thomas got a title with the White Sox, played in the 90s and 2000s. 132 on the list. Bill Terry, played with the Giants, got a title. 131 on the list. Bruce Sutter, played with the Cardinals. 130 on the list. Warren Spahn got one with the Braves, played in the 40s and 50s, 60s. 129 on the list. John Smoltz, played with the Braves, played in the 90s. 128 on the list. Ozzie Smith got one with the Cardinals, played in the 70s and 80s, 90s. 127 on the list. Tom Seaver got one with the Mets, played in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. 126 on the list. Mike Schmidt got one with the Phillies, 1970s and 80s. 125 on the list. Ray Schalk got one with the White Sox, 1912, 29. 124 on the list. Nolan Ryan got one with the Mets in the 1960s. 123 on the list. Ivan Rodriguez got one with the Marlins, played in the 90s, 2000s. 122 on the list. Ed Rausch got one with the Reds, played in 1913 through the 30s. 121 on the list. Jackie Robinson got one with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1955, was it? I believe that was the year they got it. 120 on the list. Cal Ripken got one with the Orioles, 80s and 90s. 119 on the list. Sam Rice got one with the Senators, Washington Senators, 1924. 118 on the list. Pee Wee Reese got one with the Dodgers, part of that 55 team. 117 on the list. Satchel Paige got one with the Indians. I think their lone title, 1948, was that it? Hope I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong on some of the years, my apology. But I'll try to be accurate. 116 on the list. Mel Ott got one with the Giants. Played in the 20s and 30s and 40s. 115 on the list. Hal Newshouser got one with the Tigers, 1939 through the 40s and 50s. 114 on the list. Eddie Murray got one with the Orioles, 70s and 80s. 113 on the list. Paul Molitor got one with the Blue Jays, 70s, 80s, and 90s. These are all Hall of Famers who have World Series rings. Counting down. Let's see. counting down. That was 113 on the list, 112 on the list. These all have one title and are in the Hall of Fame. Joe Medwick got one with the Cardinals, played in the 30s and 40s. 111 on the list. Joe McKinney got one with the Giants, 1899 through 1908. Wow. 110 on the list. Willie Mays got one with the Giants, 50s and 60s, 70s. 109, Christy Masterson, only one title? Should have had more. Got one. And what's noteworthy about Christy Masterson, he won 3 games in the World Series, and all 3 games were shutouts. And he went 9 innings in all 3 games. 27 scoreless innings, 3 wins, wins at the World Series title. That will never happen again. Christy Masterson. Okay, 108 on the list. Pedro Martinez got one with the Red Sox, 90s, 2000. 107, Rabio Maranville with the Braves, 1912 and 20s. 106 on the list, Greg Maddux got one with the Braves, 1990s. 105, Ernie Lombardo got one with the Reds, 30s and 40s. 104, Bob Lemon got one with the Indians, 40s and 50s. That's when they were playing. When I mentioned the years, it's when they played, the era they played in. 103 on the list, Barry Larkin got one with the Reds, 80s, 90s. 102, Al Kaline got one with the Tigers, 50s and 60s and 70s. 101, Chipper Jones got one with the Braves, 90s and 2000s. 100, Walter Johnson got 1 title. Should have had more. 1924. 99, Randy Johnson got one with the Diamondbacks. 80s, 90s, 2000. 98, Travis Jackson got one with the Giants, 20s and 30s. 97, Carl Hubble got one with the Giants, 1928, 30s and 40s. 96, Roger Hornsby got one with the Cardinals, 50s, 1915 through 1937. 95 on the list, Burleigh Grimes got one with the Cardinals, 1916, 20s and 30s. 94, Rich Gossage got one with the Yankees, 70s, 80s, 90s. 93, Tom Glavine got one with the Braves, 80s, 90s, 2000. 92, Bob Feller got one with the Indians, 30s, 40s, and 50s. 91, Red Faber got one with the White Sox, 1914, 20s, and 30s. 90 on the list, Dennis Eckersley got one with the Oakland A's, 75 through 98. 89, Larry Doby got one with the Indians, 47, 50s, 1947 through the 50s. 88, Dizzy Dean got one with the Cardinals, 30s and 40s. 87, George Davis got one with the White Sox, 1890, turn of the century. 86, Kiki Kyler with the Pirates, 20s and 30s. 85, Stan Kovaleski got one with the Indians, 1912 to the 28. These are all players in the Hall of Fame who have 1 title. And I'm counting down. Okay. 84 on the list, Jimmy Collins with the Red Sox, 1890 through turn of the century. 83, Fred Clark got with the Pirates. When I mention 1800s, that means when they started their career, but they got their title at past the turn of the century when the World Series became efficient, okay? Fred Clark with the Pirates, 1894 through 1915 is when he played. So when I mention the years, I'm talking about the era they played in, okay? 82 on the list, Orlando Cepeda, Giants and the Cardinals, 1958 through 74. 81 on the list, Gary Carter with the Mets, What year is that? That was in 1886 they won their title. 80 on the list, Max Carey with the Pirates, 1910 through 29. 79, Roy Campanella with the Dodgers. That was 1955 title. 78, Dan Brothers with the Tigers. Campanella was with the Dodgers. Brothers with the Tigers, 1879 through 1904. So I believe he was one of the first ones to get a title. 77, George Brett got one with the Royals. He played from 73 to 93. 76, Roger Brishahm with the Giants, 1897 through 1915. 75, Lou Bordarius with the Indians, 1938 through 52. 74, Wade Boggs got one with the Yankees, 82 through 99. Just missed out in 1986. He was with the Red Sox then, but he got his title with the Yankees. 73, Ross Young's Giants, 1970. All right, Wade Boggs he got one title, but now we're starting with number 73 on the list, Ross Young's. It's in the Hall of Fame. Got one with the Giants. He got two of them. So now I'm starting with players who have two. Okay, here's the two category. Ross Young with the Giants, 1973 through 1926, two titles. 72, Joe Tinker with the Cubs, two titles, 1902 through 16. 71, Willie Stargell got two with the Pirates, played in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. 70, Duke Snider got two with the Dodgers, played from 47 to 64. 69, Al Simmons got it with the old Philadelphia Athletics in the 20s and 40s. 68, Joe Sewell got two with the Indians, 1920 through 33. 67, Red Shahonanis. My apology for mispronouncing. Played with the Cardinals. He's got two. He's in the Hall of Fame. Red Shahonanis, Schoenaish, however you pronounce that. Played in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. 66, Frank Robinson, two titles, Orioles and Reds, 56 through 76. 65, Brooks Robinson, two titles with the Orioles, played in the 50s and 60s. 64, Kirby Puckett with the Twins, got two titles, 84 through 95. Only played 12 years and he died young. Kirby. 63 on the list, Eddie Plank, played with the old Philadelphia A's, 1901 through 17. 62, Tony Perez, two with the Reds, back-to-back. I believe it was 75 and 76. Those are the years. Played in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. 61, Joe Morgan, Big Red Machine, two titles, 63 through 84. 60, Bill Mazeroski with the Pirates, 50s and 70s. He hits a game-winning, Game 7th home run that wins the World Series title. How about that for Bill Mazeroski? Who's the other guy to do it? Joe Carter. But is he in the Hall of Fame, Joe Carter? I don't know. I'll have to check on that. I think those are the only two guys that hit a Game 7 winning World Series home run. 59 on the list, Eddie Matthews with the Milwaukee Braves in the 50s and 60s, two titles. 58, George Kelly with the Giants, old school, 1915 through 30s, two titles. 57, Rich Hazaras is in the Hall of Fame. Old Philadelphia A's. Sorry, my apology. Ricky Henderson. It's my writing that is bad. Played with the A's and with the Yankees. He's got two titles, Ricky. played in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000. 57, counting down, all players with World Series rings who are in the Hall of Fame. 56 on the list. Jesse Haynes with the Cardinals, 2 titles, 1918 through 37. 55, Chick Hafley with the Cardinals, 24 through 37. Era. 54, Lefty Grove played with the A's and the Red Sox, 2 titles, 1925 through 41. 53, Hank Greenberg played with the Tigers, went in the military service. That's why he's not my top 50 baseball offensive Hall of players, because he only played a short career, but he was a good player. He's got 2 titles with the Tigers through the 30s and 40s. 52, Goose Goslin, Washington Senators, and another team he played for. But he's got 2 titles, 1920s and 30s. 51, Bob Gibson with the Cardinals, got 2 titles, played from 59, 60s, and 70s. 50, Jimmy Fox, 2 titles with the old Philadelphia A's, 1925 through 45. 49, Roberto Clemente, he's got 2 titles with the Pirates, 55 through 72. 48, Frank Chance with the Cubs, way back when, turn of the century through 1914. 47, Mordecai Brown with the Cubs, 1903 through 15. 46, Lou Brock got 2 with the Cardinals, 60s and 70s. 45, Jim Bottomley had 12 RBIs in 1 game. Whew. With the Cardinals, not in a World Series game, just in a regular season game, but just listing some side notes. Bottomley played in the 20s and 30s, 2 titles. 44, Bert Blyleven with the Twins, 2 titles, played in the 70s, 80s, 90s. 43, Johnny Bench, Big Red Machine, 2 titles, 70s and 80s. 42, Dave Bancroft with the A's, early Philadelphia A's, 1915 through 29. 41, Luis Aparicio, White Sox, Orioles, 2 titles, 56 through 73. 40, Cap Anson, 2 titles, Cubs and A's, 1880 through 97. That really wasn't called the World Series in the 1880s and 90s, but he's got 2 championships. Is that fair to list that? Because the World Series didn't get going until 1903, so Cap is in question. 39 on the list, Roberto Alomar with the Blue Jays, 80s and 90s. 38, Henry Aaron got 2 with the Braves, 54 through 76. 37, Steve Carlton with the Phillies, 60s and 70s and 80s. 36, Tris Speaker, Sox, old Red Sox and the Indians, 1912 through 28. Tris Speaker starts the category of 3 titles. Remember, I started off with those who had 1, and then I listed a lot of players with 2. Now we're listing players at 3. 3 World Series titles, and they are in the Hall of Fame. Tris Speaker. 35 on the list, Jim Palmer with the Orioles, 60s, 70s, and 80s, 3 titles. 34, Herb Pennock, Yankees and A's, 1912 through 33, 3 titles. 33, Stan the Man Musial with the Cardinal has 3, 40s, 50s, and 60s. 32, Wade Hoyt with the Yankees, 20s and 30s, 3 titles. 31, Rollie Fingers with the A's, Oakland A's, 70s and 80s, 3 titles. 30, Johnny Evers with the Cubs, 1907 through 14, 3 titles. 29, Don Drysdale, 3 titles with the Dodgers, 50s, 60s. 28, Tim Raines with the Yankees. Got a title. 3 of them. 80s and 90s. Okay. 28 on the list. This will be interesting, counting down right now. I mentioned I started off with number 142, right? The players with titles. Actually, the number was 143 because I forgot Tim Raines. So I've been counting down. All right, from 143. Tim Raines is 29. 28. Early Combs with the Yankees, 3 titles, 20s and 30s. 27, Mickey Cochran, old A's and Tigers, 29s and 1929 through 30s. 26, Chief Bender, the old Philadelphia A's, 1910 through 1914, 3 titles. That was the Connie Mack era. He was the manager. 25, Frank Baker, Philadelphia A's, 1910 through 22, 3 titles. 24, Grover Cleveland Alexander. How about him? With the Cardinals, 1911 through 1929. 23 on the list, Enos Slaughter with the Cardinals. He starts the category of 4 World Series rings. 1940s and 50s. Enos Slaughter coming in at number 23 on the list. Another one with 4 titles. 22 on the list. Harry Hooper, Red Sox, White Sox, 1912, 1918, old school. 21 on the list. Jack Morris, Tigers and Twins, 80s and 90s, 4 titles. 20 on the list. Sandy Koufax, 4 titles. Got one with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and then you got 3 with the LA Dodgers. Incredible pitcher. 4 titles. 19 on the list. Eddie Collins, old Philadelphia A's, 1910 through 1919, 4 titles. 18, Frankie Frisch, Cardinals, 4 titles. 1921 through 34. All right, we are at number 18. The number 17 on the list. This person has 5 World Series rings. How about this? Lefty Gomez, Yankees, Senators, played for multiple teams, 1930s. 5 titles for Lefty Gomez. Hard to hit. 16 on the list. Reggie Jackson has 5. He got it with the A's and the Yankees, 70s and 80s. How about Reggie coming in with 5 titles? 15 on the list. Catfish Hunter, A's and Yankees, 70s. What an era. 14 on the list. Joe Gordon, Yankees and Indians, 5 titles, 30s and 40s. 13 on the list. Tony Lazario, Yankees, 20s and 30s, 5 titles. 12 on the list. Mariano Rivera with the Yankees, Hall of Fame. 90s and 2000s, 5 titles. 11 on the list. Derek Jeter, 5 titles. How about that? 90s, 2000s. Dominant Yankee teams. 10 on the list. Johnny Mize, 5 titles. Giants and Yankees, 49 and 50s. 9 on the list. Now we're starting with players with 6 titles. Incredible. Whitey Ford, number 9, with the Yankees. 6 World Series titles. Not bad. I better verify that. I'll look at Whitey Ford really quick, okay? I'm not sure if it's 5 or 6. Come on, where's my Ford? He's in my Hall of Fame book. See this book? You should get one of these. The Almanac. Whitey Ford, 6 World Series titles. Number 9 on the list. Number 8, Red Ruffins. 30s and 40s, Yankees and White Sox. 6 World Series titles. 7 on the list, Lou Gehrig. 6 titles. 20s and 30s. Sweet Lou. Could have had more. He only played 17 years. Could have had more. Number 6 on the list, Phil Rosado. Is that how you say it? Yankees. 7 World Series rings. 40s and 50s. I think they had a stretch of 5 in a row. Whew. Number 5 on the list, Mickey Mantle. Yankees. 50s and 60s. 7 rings for Mickey Mantle. And when I get to the fun facts, you'll find out what the Mick did. Woo. 4 on the list, Bill Dickey, Yankees, 30s and 40s. 7 World Series titles. 3 on the list, Babe Ruth, Yankees and Red Sox, 7 combined. 3 with the Red Sox, 4 with the Yankees. How about that? 2 on the list. This guy starts another category. Joe DiMaggio with the Yankees, 30s, 40s, and 51. Won 9 World Series titles. And he went into the military. If he doesn't go into the military and the Yankees win, he has 10 or 11 maybe. Let me look up Joe DiMaggio. How many years did he go into the military here? Let's see. 4 years in the military in his prime. And he has 9 World Series rings. And Joe DiMaggio plays 12 years. Out of 12 years, he goes to the World Series 9 times and wins 9 rings. But he goes in the military for 4 years. Is that correct? Yep. 3 years. My apology. 1943, 44, and 45. Right in the middle of his prime. He serves in the military. It's possible that Joe DiMaggio could have 12 World Series rings. It's possible. But he didn't. He settles with 9 World Series rings. Whoa! But of course, number 1, and you should know it, who has the most World Series rings in Major League Baseball history? Yogi Berra, number 1. Yankees, 40s and 60s, 10 World Series rings. 10. He puts a ring on this, and this, and this, and this in baseball. And Ernie Banks goes, "Can I have one?" And Ernie Banks doesn't play in one game in the World Series, but Ernie Banks is still smiling because he likes to play too. I like Ernie. Here's another stat on Yogi Berra. He went to the World Series 14 times. And one of the times was Game 7 of the World Series where the Bill Mazeroski home run wins Game 7. And the Yankees were a better team that year. You remember the history on that? Read about it. Yankees could have won that World Series. He would have had 11. Now we know in basketball, Bill Russell has 11 titles. And we know in And in football, Tom Brady has 6 titles. So in baseball, Yogi has 10. Incredible. All right, my last thing I'll do. What'd you think of that list? 143 players with World Series titles who are in the Hall of Fame, okay? And then 72 players who did not get a ring who are in the Hall of Fame. How about that? Fun facts. So I said Yogi Berra has 14 appearances. And I said that Ernie Banks went the most games, 2,528, without appearing. 2,528 baseball games he plays and never makes it to the World Series. But Ernie Banks is a good, positive attitude guy, and he just wanted to play baseball. That's all, and he smiles. All right, who has the most home runs in World Series history? Mickey Mantle with 18. Most hits? Yogi Berra, 71 of them. Most at bat, Yogi Berra, 259 at bats. Most runs scored, Mickey Mantle, 42. Most RBIs, Mickey Mantle, 40. Most walks, Mickey Mantle, 43. Most stolen bases, Eddie Collins and Lou Brock, 14. Pitching victories, Whitey Ford has 10 of them. Not bad. Shutouts, Christy Masterson had 4. Most innings pitched, Whitey Ford, 146, and most strikeouts, 94, Whitey Ford. How about Don Larson pitching a perfect game in the World Series? 1956 against the Brooklyn Dodgers. How about that? What else can we say about the World Series? Why do some players get to appear 14 times in the series and other players never get to win the World Series? Why? Are the teams stacked? Are the Yankees that good? Do they have the chemistry? Is it the payroll? Is the quality of players surrounded? So I told you, I mentioned that these other guys were on good teams. Tony Gwynn was on, he made it to the World Series twice, and they were good teams. But they lost to the Tigers in '84, and then they lost to the Yankees, got swept by the Yankees. Forgot what year that was. That was in 2000s. So they had a good team. How about Ty Cobb's team way back in the 1900s and 19 whatever, 15, 16 when he went to the World Series? Didn't they have a good team? Did the other team have better players? I'm scratching my head why Cobb couldn't get one. He played 24 years in the league, and he got there twice, but they lost both times. Was it the pitching? Honus Wagner and the Pirates beat the Tigers, and Honus Wagner outplayed Cobb in that series. But you know what I'm thinking? I think the pitchers on the Pirates did not throw Cobb a strike the whole series. They just said, hey, he's the best player on the team. We're not going to give him anything to hit. You know, you focus on one guy so he doesn't beat you in the World Series. It probably happened to Gwynn, too. But how about Ted Williams? He got to the World Series once, but he had a poor series. But you know why? They didn't pitch to him. They walked him. He didn't get a strike down the middle. You think they would? You think the opposing pitcher is in the World Series and Ted Williams comes to the plate? You think he's going to throw one over the plate for Ted? So Ted was impatient too. He wanted to perform, so he probably swung at some bad pitches. That's my theory. That's some of the other guys on the list. Harmon Killebrew. He had to face Sandy Koufax. Now that's different. If you're facing a Hall of Fame pitcher, it's hard to hit him, especially under the nerves of the playoffs and the World Series game. How about Ken Griffey? Never made the World Series. But Banks hold the record for most games played without getting there. Ken Griffey played less games. He never got. How about Nap Lajoie? Over 3,000 hits in his career. Man, you got some other players. How about Reggie Jackson hitting 3 home runs on 3 pitches in one World Series game? How about that? Against the Dodgers? Forgot what year that was. 77 or 78. He faces 3 different pitchers and hits a home run on the first pitch, which each pitcher that he faces. First pitcher he faces, first pitch, home run. Next at bat, different pitcher, first pitch, home run. Next at bat, third at bat in the game. New pitcher, first pitch, home run. Reggie Jackson, 3 home runs. You know who else has hit 3 home runs in a World Series game? Babe Ruth did it. And Albert Pujols has done it. Albert has a couple titles, but he's playing right now, so he's not on my list. He's still playing in the league. How about some of these other players? No World Series ring. I feel sorry for him. Man. Willie Keeler had a 44-game hitting streak. Didn't get a ring. Robin Yount had over 3,000 at bats, or 3,000 hits. No ring. Boy, Ryan Sandberg and Doss. All right, Ryan Sandberg, Ferguson Jenkins, Billy Williams. Some of those guys, they were on the Cubs. Willie McCovey. I told you what happened, right? He came that close to a ring. He's at the plate. He's the final out. And he hits a line drive, scorching hit, and the second baseman catches it. And the game is over, and the Yankees win the World Series. Not that they haven't won 20 before that. Oh, man. How about Craig Biggio? He plays 20 years in the league and no World Series ring. But he has 3,000 hits, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Don Sutton, over 320 wins. Plays for the Dodgers. Doesn't win the World Series. Trevor Hoffman, 600 saves. But props to the guys. They made it the Hall of Fame. Even though they didn't get the World Series ring, they had a good career, and they made the Hall of Fame. You may ask me the question, which do I prefer? If I was a ball player playing, which would I prefer? A stellar career, over 3,000 hits, over 500 or 600 home runs, and a lifetime batting average of 350, and I make the Hall of Fame. Or an average career, batting 250, hit 200 home runs, 800 RBIs maybe, but I win 5 or 6 World Series rings. Which would I prefer? Me. I would take the overall career of batting 350, 650 home runs, 2,000 RBIs, and 4,000 hits, having a career like that, and no ring, versus batting 200 and a couple home runs, a couple RBIs for my career, and having 6 or 7 rings. Is that weird? Is that strange? Well, the guys who didn't make the Hall of Fame, didn't make the World Series ring, they have stellar Hall of Fame credentials, and they should be proud of that. Ernie, you should be proud. Ty Cobb, Tony, Rod Carew, all you guys, Gaylord Perry, Don Sutton, Jenkins, all you guys should be proud. You made the Hall of Fame, and you had a stellar career. I take the stats over the ring. You may take the rings over the stats. No way. If you're an individual, I play the game. I like the stats. I like to perform, and I like that on my resume. I don't want 10 World Series rings, and I bet 250 for my career. All right, that's my video. Ken Artizone. Thanks for watching, and I'm out.